Today we're going to play some games with Fabien, Pujols, and Stephane Ivanov's Gardy list from euic. Fabien bubbled out of top 8, getting 9th place with the same amount of match points as the 8th and 7th seed, while Stephane got 23rd, and Lepines also got 18th with a similar list. Now this list is quite interesting. They both decided to go with the Mimic Hue and the Flutter main, as well as the Clef Key for specific matchups. The Mimic Hue is good against Charizard and against any V and EX deck, so that you can basically have it on the bench, and if your opponent vacuums away your Bravery Charm or your Cape and knocks out your Drifloon or your Screamtail, you're able to then promote the Mimic Hue to avoid giving up 2 prizes. The Clef Key is good against Iron Hands, the future Iron Hands deck. You want to promote it turn 1 so that you can't get knocked out by their baby Miraidon because it shuts off all their Iron Crowns. And the Flutter main is good against any Lost Zone decks. It shuts off their Comfies and their Cramorant, and its attack does 90 damage to the active, and you get to spread 2 damage counters on their bench, so you're able to build up multiple prize turns. You can do things like hit a Cram for 90 and put 2 damage counters on another Pokemon, and then the next turn boss up a Comfy and knock out the Comfy and the Cramorant. Another notable thing in this deck list is no rare candy. This deck really wants to go second and get off a TM evolution. The lack of candy is one of the things that I personally like least about the deck, but what can you say, they did pretty good with it. It also has the 3 counter catchers because you're looking to do a lot of gust plays, like bringing something up and then Screamtailing the bench, or since you're probably playing from behind because you want a TM Evo, you're going to want to bring up those 2 prizers for a 2-2-2 prize map. And the rest of the list is pretty straightforward. The notable cards are probably the Eerie for Charizard, Chimpao, and Lost Zone decks, and the Turo for Stall, and just really any matchup that you want to pick up a Pokemon, probably a damaged Pokemon against attacking decks, and then whatever they try to stick in the active against Stall. Alright, our first game is against Lost Zone. This is probably one of this deck's better matchups. Now I get to choose to go second, so that's pretty nice to see. This deck does a lot better going second. And I choose to start Mimikyu. It just seems like a good Pokemon to have in the active. It's a good thing to attach the TM Evo to for my turn. And I don't want Jirachi on the board unless it's this matchup, and I want to save Drifloon because it's one of my attackers, and there's only one. Alright, another bonus is it kind of confuses them. As you can see, they think they might be against Stall, so they don't really fully set up their board. They wait and see what I do. Now I Arven here. I'm always going to get Buddy Poffin TM Evo with this Arven, but I'm just looking through my deck, taking note of what's prized. I see that's my only Super Rod, so I have to be careful with that. I also prized 2 Curlia, which is unfortunate. And I grabbed the 60 HP Ralts right away because against Lost Zone, that's one that I want to evolve as quick as possible before they're able to save a life. And then I just Evo and pass. They start with the Colress, get rid of a Super Rod on the board. That's 2 cards that are always nice to see gone against Lost Zone. And a Flower Selecting. I will say at this point, I was quite frustrated because I was struggling to get good games with this deck because I would either dead draw or just get completely dominated. I'm not the biggest fan of the 3 Ultra Ball and the 0 rare candy. I personally like a candy in my list, and 4 Ultra Ball helps a lot when you're going second, or going first, I mean. If you go first and struggle to get Curlias out, it's a real pain. Alright, and they cram. I choose to bring up the drifloon because I really want to keep my Jirachi when they stabilize, and I throw out an Eerie. I see that they have all the rest of their colorlesses in their hand. That's important to note. I originally was going to get rid of Mirage Gate and Switch Cart, but I remember they have 2 Super Rod in the Lost Zone already, so I hit the Super Rod. Now I'm just debating what exactly I want to do, and I counter catch the one with the energy so I can just knock it out and take a prize and even it up. I'm not drawing super great at this point. They play a colorless. Next turn we're really hoping to find an Iono. Then we put all the rest of their colorlesses on the bottom of their deck, and that would leave them very limited for draw. I do make a mistake at some point and go down to 3 before I should. 3 prizes, that is. I get out an Iron Hands. This card is very scary in this matchup. Throw up the cram and knock out my guy. I promote my Gardy for turn because I was planning on attacking with my gardevoir originally, so that they can't Iron Hands my Gardy. And then Nest Ball, and I see the Flutter Mane. I kind of forgot about this guy. And I figured at this point that Flutter Mane is what I'm gonna want to attack with this turn. And here I choose to Ultra Ball for it so that I guarantee to get it, because I really want to Iono to put their 2 colorless on the bottom. So I choose to Ultra Ball away the Cape, remembering that my other Super Rod is prized, so that leaves Cape as the only option, and we Iono. Catch an energy of the active so that I have to do less damage to it. And this 20 damage almost ends up losing me the game at the end, as you'll see. Now, having to put 60 damage on Flutter Mane doesn't feel great, but I'm really kind of banking that they're going to brick. And I put 2 on the Iron Hands because I'm planning to hopefully attack with this a few times. And then I'll be able to get 4 damage counters on it, so I'll be able to knock out Iron Hands with my Gardevoir EX. They boss Jirachi and Mew, and knock it out. Now this turn's weird. I have a few options here. I can boss, take a 2 prize turn, Arvin for Super Rod, just get back my Jirachi, and keep it moving, and do the plan of knockout cram, and then put 2 more damage counters on Iron Hands. As you can see, I'm pretty unsure. I Ultra Ball here, and I forgot that my other 2 Curlias are prized. So I was like, oh man, that sucks. That was this game. So I just grabbed the EX. And here I'm just still debating what to do. Now, in hindsight, I think the correct choice was Boss Sableye, do 90, put 2 damage counters on the Iron Hands. But I can't resist the 2 prize turn, so I knock out Sableye and Cramorant. And as soon as I take my prizes, I'm like, oh no, that gives them Roxanne. So they send up Mew, Artisan for Manaphy. I guess they're expecting, they don't want me to like stall something and Scream Tail them maybe, or they think that the Flutter Mane does damage and not damage counters, and they Roxanne. Just what I was afraid of. I've noticed that Gardy Sense Rotation is not as good against Roxanne as it used to be. Without Shining Arcana, you're drawing less of your deck, and you have no way to just draw 2 cards for free. So if you get 2 cards, or 3, you'll get 3 cards after you draw for turn with Roxanne. But you have to get rid of something with the Curly to keep drawing. And they Mew, I guess they were hoping for an energy card so that they could amp my Flutter Mane. I trade into double Arvin. I don't know that this is like the most useful to me right now. I just figure I might as well play it. And my first thing I think to get is Super Rod, because I do want have some Pokemon I want to get back. but I go for Vessel because that gets me energy. I can draw with Greninja, and I'll just have an energy for next turn or this turn or whenever I want it. Double Iono is kind of nice to see. And I'm not sure if I should have retreated and just attacked with my Gardy EX here. Once again, in hindsight, I think that might have been the correct play. I just do 90, 20 to the Mew because Screamtail with no charm can do 160 damage. And they get a Chorus, which is unfortunate, but we kind of had to expect to have it after the Roxanne. And they go down to 1 prize. I think retreating the Fluttermane and attacking with the EX was almost certainly the right choice. But now I can Iono them to 1. I put back the Mimikyu, just kind of, I don't know really what I was thinking there. Probably shouldn't have put that back. And we Iono. Get Poppin', now I can get the Jirachi back. I definitely don't want the Mimikyu because I want to leave space for Screamtail or Drifloon or whatever. I'm not sure what to trade here, or Refinement, I guess. I end up going with... can't remember what I go with. The Arven. I don't know, I was figured they might... that would save me from a boss play or whatever. I don't know, it probably didn't much matter, because I either lose right now or win next turn. But at first I was thinking I'm going down to 1 prize, they can counter catch her, but then they have 1 prize as well, so they can't. I was actually hoping to get my own counter catcher last turn to knock out the Mew to stop them from drawing. But now, like, yeah, they can play out a card, drop to 3. Oh, they just have it. They just have a chorus, that's lucky. And they get rid of those, they pick their cards really, really quickly, so that makes me nervous. And this is where the 20 damage, I think, comes in, almost comes in to screw me. But they don't have a fire in their deck, so we win. Alright, our next game is against an Espathra deck, I believe. These decks are interesting. There was a couple that were doing pretty good at EUIC, so I just assumed right away that it was the Espathra EX. And they bench a Minior, so they're apparently not drawing so well. And they'll pass. Most decks right now really prefer to go second. I do the heavy ball right away, which is incorrect. You always want to play Poffin or Nest Ball before your heavy ball, so then you can see if you have anything prized or not. But I played it right away because I knew I was going to Iono this turn. So I didn't want to put the heavy ball back in my deck, so I figured I'd just get rid of it. And we draw pretty good right now. We got lucky to hit the TM Evo and Energy without playing Arven. Now we'll just TM Evo and see what they do. Right, they draw. Bench a Flittle. Ultra Ball with a counter catcher, that's always nice to see. I played this game last night, probably before any of the deck lists were super available, because since I played this morning to get the first game, and the deck is just full of the decks that did good at EUIC because they're up on Limitless now, so people can just import the lists. Alright, so we got a Vessel, very much like the Vessel and Gardy now. Since you're playing lots of energy cards, and it's a good way to find energy with Arven. Let's trade another energy. We got Klefki, which is kind of useless in this matchup, so we can just Ultra Ball away. That and Manaphy. I was trying to remember if this Espathra deck played anything that would hit the bench. I could not for the life of me remember what the baby Espathra did. I know the big one makes basics use extra energy and has an attack that does more for the more energy you have. So I'm not super worried about that, because I'm always putting more energy than I need on my basic Pokemon. And now I can just put a couple energy on my Screamtail and knock out their bench Natu. I choose to knock that out, I believe, because it's their draw, so it just seems like the better option. It's not Natu now, but whatever, it's called Xatu. I just knock it out and pass. They get in a skateboard off my town store. It's one of those stadiums that kind of feels bad because your opponent can almost always take advantage of it. And we have such powerful tools right now that kind of feels bad to give them that. I don't know why I played it, to be honest. It might have been one of those things where I just kind of autopiloted and threw it down. They evolve into the Stance Espathra that I cannot damage next turn. But luckily I have all the cards in my hand that I need to attack with Screamtail again. And Screamtail hits the bench. So this is probably like the worst possible matchup for this deck. We draw Counter Catcher for turn. This deck list does play 3 Counter Catcher, which seems a bit excessive. I will probably personally change it to a Rare Candy or a EX or a 4th Ultra Ball. Well, my Gardy list is quite a bit different. But after seeing Fabian's list, I did add a Mimikyu to mine. I played in a Winnabox yesterday, so I threw a Mimikyu in my original list. And I did alright. I ended up losing in top 4, so not too bad. This ball, get the Screamtail. Trade again, or refinement. I always call it trade. Much easier to say, much less syllables. Get an Ultra Ball for a 3rd Kirlia. I just mostly wanted the energy in the discard pile. So I figured I might as well throw a Kirlia in my hand. Now that can definitely backfire with Iono, but I definitely wanted the Psychic in the discard, so we go for it. And we got a Bravery Charm, the Screamtail, to be able to knock out the EX. We Roaring Scream. Take 2 prizes. Now at this point, I don't really know what they could do. We're so far ahead. And I don't think I ever find out if they do play the Espathra EX in here. I would assume they do. They get the mana fee a little too late. I think the plan of this deck is to try to chain stance abilities and just 2-shot everything. I don't know that the Hero's Cape is the best tool for this deck, but I don't know. I couldn't really say. I've never played it. I knocked out my Screamtail. I'll just promote the Drifloon. That's the only thing I have that can efficiently knock out this Espathra. And luckily our town store has stayed in play for so long. Makes this a lot easier. I'll grab the Hero's Cape, because we don't want to attack with a 2-prizer yet. The Luxurious Cape does the same thing, but it makes our Pokemon worth 1 more prize. We'll just do our trades. I'm just debating what to get rid of. I ended up getting rid of Arven. I probably could have just got rid of Greninja pretty easily. Probably the biggest loss for this deck though is the level ball. As you're seeing, it's a pain to get Kirlias out now. It kind of sucks. I've tried it with Great Balls, but it's just not the same. I guess you could play the Capturing Aromas, but then you're relying on coin flips. I don't know. I don't really like that card that much. And if it works without the card, why bother putting it in? We just knock out our opponent's espathra, they evolve, start accelerating energies. I'd say this game is basically over at this point, but my opponent sticks it out because they do have their stance ability to block me from attacking for this turn. Unlucky for them, I do just have a boss in my hand. Okay, we'll just do our trades. Still not get another Curlia. It's just such a pain. Knock out the Zatu, and they just scoop. And that was Fabien Pujols Gardy EX list. It is alright. It has some interesting text in it, so it gives you a few extra ideas for your Gardy list. And it's proven that these extra Pokemon work, so that's cool. I personally really like having a rare candy and the EX in my deck list, which Piper Lepine did play the rare candy and the EX in hers. She also played Delayed and Palpad, which I also play in my Gardy list right now. I'll throw her list on the screen, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and hope you all have a good week. Goodbye.